I can share my screen. So I'm going to start sharing my, look, I've got actually more up than I need. That's for sure. What am I sharing here? I'll just share my desktop. I think it looks like I've got, you can see I'm working on my taxes too. It's on there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I decided I got a new listing coming up and I decided, I just got it today. So I decided I was going to go ahead and just go through the process with you on how I would value this house. So this house happens to be in Santa Quin, but the approach is just the same. It doesn't matter any city. I follow a very consistent protocol in doing my pricing. And then if I run into any tough situations where I can't find comps or so forth, then I extrapolate from there, or I take my packet of what I've put together and I take it to people like Lori and say, hey, this is my research. Where do you think I should price it at? So, but right now this one is a great one because there are comparables. They've got some comps. So it really makes it pretty easy to move forward on this one. So this is a client of mine. I sold them the house 3 years ago. So they're wanting to sell it and move to Davis County. So I'm going to value the property. And so what I do first is see if there's an old an old MLS listing. I do that by searching. Let's go back here. I might be being too rudimentary, but I'm going to go ahead and show it. So I'm just going to, I've got all my tabs up from doing this. So I'm just going to start over. Let me clear it here. So I'm just starting with just a new home page. I'm going to make this a lot smaller for me. There we go. Please pipe in if you have any questions or need me to stop or clarify something. So what I do first is I search a tax data search first. So their last name is Fonahima. And I know the property is in Utah County. And I'm going to go ahead and search that. Not a lot of Fonahimas, which is good. So I know that this is their property on Sawtooth. Now you'll see right here, there's no links right here that tell me that it's been listed before. So even if it's new construction, I sold them this home before I was really paying attention to what it takes to be on a top 500 agent. So you want to make sure all your sales are recorded. So I had a lot of sales. I sold a lot of new construction this year. And I don't remember. I think I did get a top 500, but I can definitely tell you right now, I didn't ask the builder to load this property onto the MLS. So it wasn't. So there's no record of it right here. So I'm going to need to go off of everything on tax data. So I'm going to show you how I find out on a property on tax data, because you may have an old home that nobody's ever sold on the multiple listing service, and you need to kind of figure out some data on it. So the things that I want to know, and I think with a pen, so even though I've got it printed out, the things that I want to know are the year built, the square footage. Those are the two things that I'm really after here, and the size of the lot. Okay, so right here, we're going to see the year built. Over here, we're going to see the square footage of the lot, or the size of the lot. So I print these out and I actually highlight them so that because I like to work from hard paper. And so I have to highlight them because I'm going to make some numbers from this. Then square footage. This is the building area. The newer the property, the easier it is to figure out the square footage on tax record. So 1968 is actually the above ground square footage. And I'm cheating a little because I do know the size of this house, as I remember selling it to them. And it has a basement of 906. So I put those two numbers together to get my total square footage. We do not include garage or porch. I'm going to admit somebody because I think I'm in charge now. So a basement, and we include basement, we do not include porch, and we do not include garage. So our total square footage for the home is 2,892 square feet. And then I make a note that the year built is 2021 and the acreage is 0.164. And then this home is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So we're going to make notes of those. So here's the 2.5 bath, 3-bedroom. Okay. Now I have spoken with my homeowner, and he said he's almost finished with the basement, but I haven't seen it yet. So I don't know what finished really means in their interpretation of finished. I did ask, is the bathroom in yet? No. Is there flooring in yet? No. Has have the walls been painted yet? No. So are we going to make it to the finish line and they finish it? I hope so, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to actually value it as if it were an unfinished basement. And then I'll show you how I add on if it happens to have a finished basement. So right now, the kind of the range I'm looking for is the kind of the smaller the home when you add, I add square footage. So first and foremost, I look at years, and I'm going to go back 5 years and forward 5 years. So I'm going to do 2016 to current, because we're 2021. So to current. Now I might find, because I know this is a high building area, I might find that gives me too many comps to go 2016 to current, but I'm just going to go ahead and write that on my paper. And then as far as acreage, I typically add 0.05 and minus 0.05. In this case, if I minus 0.05, I've got a pretty small lot, but I'm okay with that. So it's going to be 0.11 to 0.21 roughly. So 2.1 as far as the lot sizes. So that just gives me an idea there. So I've got year built and I've got lot sizes. Now I've got square footage. So square footage is 2892 or 2900. So I'm dropping back to 2400 to 3400 square feet. Now getting from 28 to 34, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that does add more bedrooms. It actually is affecting the house a lot, but I'm just going to see what I get, because I want to cast a decently wide net to make sure I do get comps, and then I'm going to see if I end up with too many. Is everybody good so far? I don't have anybody on screen, so I'm not sure if anybody's like okay with that, but that's what I do. And then, so I just print that out and I keep it aside, and I also save it in a PDF because I want to go back. I may have a client that wants me to do a valuation, and this one is an example. And I actually probably won't be selling the house for about 3 to 4 months. So they're just trying to get an idea, see what their numbers are, get pre-approved with a lender, see what they're going to be able to buy, have me do a net sheet for them, and be able to tell them what they're going to take with them to the new house as far as an equity position. So I save this in a folder for them. I label it valuation, and that's the first thing that I do. Now, if I had an old MLS listing, I would be printing that as well. Because what I am looking for is also reminding me what they purchased it for. This one I already had to look it up, and they paid $418,000 for the house in 2021. So that just helps me with some basic numbers that I need. Then I move on, and I'm going to go ahead and do it so I don't jump to the ones that I've already done. Then I move on, I just leave it like that, and I come up to stats. Now I want to see what's going on in the Santaquin market. What is going on there? I start with sales per month report. And so here I do change it to the type of product that I've got. I've got a single family home. So I just want to see, and then I come down here and I choose the city of Santaquin. If you hear me typing, that's because Lori will tell you I'm an angry typer. So bear with me. And so I come back, and I like to see, right now, I'd like to see what's happening in 2 years, because 2024, half of 2024 was a really strong market. Half of 2024 was a down market. So it was a zero appreciation year. 2023, February, March of 2023 was the lowest the market hit after the big boom of COVID. And so I know that that's kind of a threshold of how low the prices got. So I personally want to see back 2 years and just see what kind of trend is happening in the particular city. It's not too many numbers to look at. So right now I've just got Santaquin and I've got single family. I'm not trying to control it by square footage yet. Then as you can see, it sees my criteria right here. And I take a look at these numbers, and I'm looking back at the low times where and this is, you can consider this more of an up and coming area, meaning it's still rural, still can get USDA loans. It's a high growth area as far as building. It's cheaper to buy. So it's going to have a little bit slower appreciation until the population catches up to it. So when UVU goes in at the pace and exit, and the front runner goes in at the pace and exit, building will even be booming. So these houses will then, those people who hold on them longer will start seeing some pretty massive gains on their houses. But right now we're seeing that 2 years ago, we started to drop. See, here's that March, April timeframe, all the way down to 160 a square foot. Then the market started picking up again. We had some 5.5% interest rates start to creep up and help out a little bit there. And so we started to creep back up to 182 a square foot. So we're pretty, and then we saw a really strong November of 2023, really strong. And I'm just kind of seeing how it's going. But for this, I'm going to go to 2024. I'm going to go back and take a look. For me, I go back and see what's kind of happening here in these months. And it's pretty consistent. 172. So we were pretty low in May at 169, but the square footage was a little higher. So typically, unless we're in the luxury market, the higher the square foot, the lower the price per square foot, unless there's some sort of added feature that's really changing that. Now, this isn't taking into account whether the basement is finished or not. We're just taking a look at the square footage. So we're at 2892. So we're pretty consistent in the square footage. So right now for the month of January, 9 homes have sold with an average sale price of 512, 97% of list price, and 2,700 square feet. See this November of 2024? This is everybody who locked at 5.5. We had that 2-week time period of 5.5. And so we saw, boom, see that spike in that price per square foot. Now, again, we're starting to see some momentum, and we've been seeing that momentum coming because of the change in the administration. We've been seeing some uptick in the market. So we're seeing that. So for me, we're looking at yes, those are 190, but I'm going to stick right in here. I'm going to stick at that one. If I were to average these out, and if you needed to average them and add them, you could, but I'm going to stick at about 185 a foot. So I'm going to take my clients, my property, just take my calculator out, and I'm going to take 185 a foot, and I'm going to times it by the square footage, which is 2892, and that gives me just a ballpark price of $535,200. I make a note of that, that I chose a 185 as the average. So I typically print this out and I'll just average those out and see what I come up with. I'll average for the last 5 or 6 months. If I have a major spike, I'll throw that one out. But in this case, we don't really have a major spike. So I'll block off May, and then the rest of them are pretty consistent. So I'm going to go to 185 a foot. And so it's telling me, this house should probably be sitting about 535. And so then I fine tune this a little bit by adding in a little bit more of the criteria that I'm after. So we could have some 3-acre parcels in there. We could have some bigger homes. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to cut this off at 3,400 feet. And I'm actually going to not go too small, because price per square foot goes up if the houses are too small. And there may be some single family homes out there that are maybe 1,500 square feet without a basement or something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my 2,400, and I'm going to go to that. And we're just going to see if there's any change. And then I'm going to go ahead, and then I'm going to go up to the acreage, because I don't want to go any bigger than 0.21 and just see what I get. Now, I could put the 0.11 in here if I wanted to. I don't think they have lots out there that small. So we'll kind of go there. So I'll put that in. Then I'm going to go ahead and view it again. And I print that first one out, and I save it in my file. This one lists my criteria, and I see if it changes at all. It actually gets better for our price range. So it gets better. So 179, 179, 175, 171, 181, and 184, and again, still, and then up to 192. But if I were to average those, I still think it's going to be coming out at about 185. There are times where I'll do this and I'll narrow down the criteria, because the houses are not like, we're going out where track houses are. These are all track houses. We might be in an area of West Jordan where some are track houses, some were built in the 70s, some were this. It's much more of a mixed full of fruit. And so it's really important to narrow down your criteria, because you can go from quite extremes. It could be a $20 or $30 per square foot difference. So what I've got here is, so I'm going to stick with that number of 535. This just confirms that they have a lot of very similar product out there. So I'm going to leave that there. And then now I create another, I keep doing new tabs. So I end up having all of my files right in a row if I need to jump back and take a look or fine tune. So I open a new tab, And then we're done with sales per month report. I want to know what the market summary is now. I want to know what's on the market. So what that just did was that just took over the data that I had already entered in as criteria. And now I'm going to add a little bit more criteria if I need to. So right now, I typically didn't, just typically in the past, look at expireds and canceled because everything was selling. But now we are getting expireds, we are getting canceled, and I'd like to know what that looks like. So the other note I hadn't pointed out over here was we also look at the days on market. So we look at, what is it selling, price per square foot? What is it selling for list price versus actual? So we've got a couple of 100% in here, which looks pretty good. But then if we jump over here, we want to point out that we've got some pretty hefty days on market on average. So letting your client know, based on the data, you recommend a price, but you also say this price is based on these longer days on market to get a offer, go under contract. This is days on market to go under contract. And we want to take a look at, like right here, those that are getting 100%, we want to see what their price per square foot is versus others. But that's that November range where the interest rate dropped. So that was very different. So that was a big percentage, right? A full percentage difference. So the rest of them, 98. We did have 100% right here in September. And so we just kind of watch it. But we are expecting, and right now we are expecting to give concessions. So this is representative potentially of a concession being given, whether it be $10,000 to $15,000 in the closing costs or an interest rate buy down. So we're paying attention to that. So these are things that I like to mark and discuss with my client. So we're jumping back here, wanting to see what's on the market. I've got single family home that already came over with us. And I've got Santaquin as the city. And I've got to put in my year built. So we're going to go 2016 and there's not going to be a lot in that tail end. Those will be easy to eliminate, to current is pretty much what we're at. Now I expect, because I've actually done this, it's going to give me more listings that I want. And I'm just looking at what's going on the market. So want to make sure I've got my square footage on there. I've got my lot size range on there. I've got my year built range on there. So I've covered the basic criteria that I'm looking for, and I'm going to review that result. And so here I want to see what's going on. Okay, so in these, our price range is sitting here, the 500,000 to 549. There are currently 15 active listings. So definitely want to be curious about what those are. And the median days on market are 134. So we're definitely going to want to know that. And then not a lot for sale above 550. So we definitely want to see how our house compares to this 550 house, but it has been on the market 51 days. Without seeing it, I would say it's overpriced. So because our average days on market is sitting in the high 20s to low 30s, based on the report that we just pulled. Then under contracts, these are the ones that mean more to us. Very interested in that 500 to 549. 2 houses went under contract, and their median days on market were 28. Now I'm going to tell you, if I get it together, I'm going to actually call the multiple listing service, because they need to program it so that we can dial in right here and click and see those properties. So I hope everybody agrees with me, because I have to go find them. Whereas it would be fabulous if we could just click right here and see the 2 listings and have them pop up and be able to see them. So we need to all put pressure on the multiple listing service to add that for us. So I'm looking at the expired. So when I told you I used to not pull expireds because there wasn't really a need to, because they were all of them were selling. We've got a couple here that had some expireds. And so we're looking in our price range. There were 6 of them that expired. So it might be curious to take a look and see what those look like. So there were 6, and I'm saying, we could crest that 550 price point. They have a really nice lot and they've got a really good view. And so we could crest that, but I don't think we will, just because of the Santaquin, just being more rural in Santaquin. So I'm curious to see. But that house has been, before it was expired, 142 days on market. And then we've got a home out of our price range and backup. So that doesn't, but it is matching our square footage. It's matching our search range. But there's definitely got to be something more to it to put it in that price range. And then as far as our solds go, looking in that price range, they've had 62 sales with a median days on market 22. And then as far as our canceled, they've had 8 canceled, and they had been on the market an average of 25 days. So I print this out because this helps to give a picture not only to me, but also to my client of where we are in the market. Where do we sit? What's going on? What's the competition? So active, we know we've got 15 potential competition homes on the market. So we'll need to see what those are. Now, some of those could be new construction because I didn't, which I could do now. Going back here, I could choose require it to be built standing. Hold on, I lost it. Hello, hello. I use it a lot. I just can't see it at the moment. Okay, hold on. Anybody sees it, feel free to yell stop. Come on. Drives me crazy when I've seen it a couple of times today already, and I'm like, where is it? Okay, here we go. It's a built standing under construction. Definitely yell stop if you see it, please. It's here. Come on. It might be under site. So here
You
we
can
are.
try
There it is.
Control
Built
F under
standing.
construction.
Pardon?
I would just say you can try doing Control F search and then just type in the word.
Oh, thank you. I never even thought of doing that. That is like the best lesson I've learned today. So thanks for teaching me. So if I take a
No
look
problem.
at this, it did drop. See those to 6. So we're going to stick with built standing. But we are going to be competing against builders. So builders DR Horton is out there. Edge is not too far away. Salisbury Homes is still out there. So it'll be definitely important to find out what the competition is as far as incentives. So for instance, DR Horton is likely offering a 6% interest rate and possibly a few thousand, like maybe 3% toward closing costs. A lot of what Edge is doing. Edge is offering sometimes up to 6%, depending on where their communities are. So we're definitely competing against that, but at least that took us down to 6. So we know for us in what we're competing, we've got 6. So that helps us out a little bit. And then 2 are under contract, and then still the 5 expireds, and then still good sold in 27 days getting a contract, and then some canceled 6 there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there, and I'm going to create a new tab. And now I'm actually switching over to my full residential search to look for my comps. So right now, because I haven't chosen any status, I'm going to start with my solds because it goes back. It goes back the full year, and it looks like I've got 41 with the current criteria. So I could go through that 41 and just pick them out, or I could narrow it. I don't feel like what I could do. So what you'd seen me do before is I was like, well, I do know that I'm probably going to get some homes. So what I'm going to do is before I do that, I'm just going to come back. It's not going to let me come back. Hold on. Nope. Go here. So coming back here to 41, I'm going to tighten up my years a little bit. So I had 2016. So I'm going to do 2019. See if that drops me to 33. In square footage, I'm going to drop it down to 32. And that gives me 27 and make this maybe 26. So I'm just tightening it up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I'm getting a 2-car garage. Still 22. Okay. I could probably increase my lot size a little bit. There we go. So there's our little threshold. So let's go back here and see what that gives us. Okay. So I just tightened up my threshold just a little bit because I don't need to go through 41 houses on the solds. Now, in this market, it's very important to look at everything. So we're going to look at solds, we're going to look at under contracts and backups, we're going to look at actives, just so we can see where everybody's placing their homes and what days on market. So we did know that about 97, 98% of list price is what the homes are selling for. So we can take that into consideration as well. So this home, I definitely like to see, you know, where it is. My client's home. So this is in the DR Horton community. This is all new construction along here. My client's home is up in here. It's actually right in this section, I think, right here. So this is all new construction as well. So I'm just kind of trying to see kind of in a range of where it's at so that I can see, you know, if somebody's shopping here, would they be shopping there? And that is true, they will be. So I take a look at that. They've got 28 unfinished basement. It's sold this month for 526. So what I do is I unselect and I just start selecting what I think are my favorites. So here, but I do like to know where the house is. So that's another one over there. It's got a smaller lot of 0.12, 26, unfinished basement. They did give an concession and it's sold at 500. I'm going to see if I can get something a little bit stronger. I'm not going to go for a single family since I've got so many others to choose from. This one looks a little bit more like my client's house. That's why you didn't have a picture to go from because there wasn't any previous listings, but I'm a little more familiar with what theirs looks at. But it does have a small lot, 2,800 square feet. And I will look at pictures if I want to see if they had like decked the house out because I want to show my clients what do we need to do to make your house sell like this one. It can't just be a model match. You've got to also stage it and do a lot of things to make it command that price. I even ask him, how do you feel your house compares to this one? That's one of the questions that I ask. So they've staged this one really nicely. And so it looks really great. And so it's definitely commanding that price. So they got their list price in 22 days, but they gave a 6,450 concession. So they gave, you know, they're a little bit under what I would have expected for a concession. Let's see who, yeah, and it was likely, I mean, this is a limited agent. Well, let's see, yeah. I don't know if they're the same firm or not. So I don't think they are. They have very similar names, but it's not quite the same. So that's a really good comp for me there. So I'm coming up with that one. Then I'm going to pass on the Rambler. Here's another one. They gave a 10,000 concession here on this one, and it was 509 and 28. Small, right in the neighborhood. So that is affecting our price. So we're taking that into consideration. Same area over there. So I haven't really had much coming up in the solds that are in the community that I'm in, unless it's a Rambler like this one. So this Rambler, but I'm not going to try to stay out of the Rambler since I've already got a lot of 2 stories. That one's going to be in the same area as well as my clients. This one's over on the other side. That's in the same area. The builder did build a lot of Ramblers. Here we go. So this one is back over on that. Yeah, that's back over there too. 2696, that 183 per square foot. And 0.13. So my client's lot's still bigger, but I'll go ahead and grab that one. And then they did an opt out on this one, but it was 3,107 square feet. They just put this one in. They must have put it in with as just a comp. 1 day on market. Let's see. Yeah, same real estate firm. So they brought in a buyer, somebody had a listing and they matched it up. And so it was at 520 for 3,100 square feet. So this comp is going to be used likely for an appraiser and it is a 2-story. So it could possibly be used. Do I have an address? Yeah, and it's right in the neighborhood. No, it's on the other side. They have such similar names. So I'm going to see how that affects it before I grab some under contracts. So I'm going to view my results there and take a look and just keep those. So I typically print these just because I like to make sure I have them. I print those. Oh, whoops, it went to my actual printer. I meant to print them to PDF.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Just wanted to hear kind of your opinion about CMA reports and like how you present CMA, like your CMA presentation, and what do you generally use? Do you just use this report or do you upload it to like Cloud CMA or something like that?
On the solds where I want them to go through the pictures, I will also, it all depends on if I'm presenting in person or not. Most of my listings I present in person. And so I'm bringing my laptop with me. So I've just pulled up everything I want on there. So I just go through the listings. But if I need to send it to them, like for these people, since they're not going to be listing for a few months, we are going to be doing it over the phone. And so I will send them a valuation and a couple of comparables because I have a trusted relationship with them. I mean, this packet of information, if I bring a hard copy to a potential listing and I don't have like I'm competing for the listing, I don't leave my information, if that makes sense. So I don't leave my
Yes.
information. But I will, if for some reason it's remote, they're out of state, I will need to send them a link to the sold comps. Or I do it over Zoom, so I'm the one pulling it up. But I do use Cloud CMA so that people can see the pictures really easily. So I'll put them in
Okay.
Cloud CMA and just
What do
narrow
you
it
do
down and
if
say,
you have a potential client that you haven't met yet, that you might be, they might be interviewing you, or you might have an appointment with, and they ask you to
I
send a
prefer to meet in
copy?
person. I want to be,
Okay.
I don't leave anything. I just bring
You
them.
never email a copy of like a CMA
Nope.
report or anything.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Okay, that makes sense.
Nope. I take it with me and I meet them in person.
Okay, thank you.
So I've done that in the past, and I've learned my lesson not to do that because they've essentially taken it and then hired their family member, but used all my data.
Yeah,
Now
that
I'm
makes
giving
sense.
them a
It's a lot of
price, so
work.
could they use that price? Absolutely, they could totally use that price and say, well, they did a CMA, we want to list at this price, but they don't have the supporting documentation to go with it. But my responsibility while I'm there is to build that trust and relationship and ask the questions to get a feel and a temperament for what is it going to, what qualities are they looking for in an agent, and what are they going to need to see from an agent before they make a decision on, and what's going to make that agent stand out. And I ask those questions if I don't know them. And if they're more of a cold referral, then I'm wanting to ask them. But that's usually in a conversation on the phone before I'm in person with them. As I prepare for the multiple for doing this valuation, I'm asking them. I'm preparing I ask them questions about their house. I've already printed out the old listing or the tax data. I ask them a few questions. I ask them to tell me about their house. I also walk the home first before, and that's why I don't send something over. I mean, you can put people on a drip campaign and it can give them a rough valuation. Zillow does it, even Realtor.com does it. Gives them, and I always tell them sometimes it's right, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. Just depends on the comps and we're a non-disclosure state, so it doesn't have as much data to pull from on those algorithms. They have to rely more on some national algorithms. So when people say, well, this is what Zillow came up with, and I'm like, well, let's see if that's true. It might be, it might not be, but let's take a look. And what I'm after when I'm interviewing them on the phone or they're interviewing me, I'm also interviewing them. I'm saying, okay, what are you looking for in an agent? What would you like your agent to accomplish for you? And what are you going to need to learn in order to choose a particular agent? What's going to set that agent apart? So those are some questions I ask to feel what they're looking for, because I am trying to fill out whether they're just trying to get a pricing valuation from me or not. So, and I just kind of want to feel that process out. So I go ahead and I think I just did it. Yeah, I did my sold comps. And then if I don't have a lot, then I'll do my solds and under contracts together. But since I do have more, I'm going to create a new tab right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and refine the search. Let's see. And then who was chatting with me? It disappeared on me because I'm trying to see my screen.
That was
Nazir?
me. Yeah.
Okay, Nazir. So Nazir, have you had your first listing appointment yet?
Yeah, no, I've sold real estate,
Oh, great. Okay. What do
but
you
I'm
do
changing
in
my
your listing
approach right now.
presentation? Oh, you're changing your
Um,
approach. Okay, good.
well, and I've sent information. If somebody asks me, I've generally sent it. Um, and I'm kind of like you too, where in the past I would take my laptop with me and just have everything open up, all the windows and stuff. That way I can navigate them quickly, or I'd put it like in a spreadsheet just to kind of give them an idea. And that way I stay
Yes.
organized. They kind of stay organized. Um,
Yep.
but lately I've been trying to revise the process, and that's why I was asking about like CMA reports, CMA presentations, but you kind of make a good point about not leaving anything with them, because if they're not going to work with you, you don't want to kind of just hand out information.
Right. Yeah, I just don't leave it. I have it there and they'll ask me, can we keep that? And I say, this is my proprietary way of how I value properties. So I actually don't leave it with prospective sellers.
Yeah,
And that's
and
just, this is what I keep in my file. So, but they're more than
okay.
welcome to call me and ask me more questions. I'm more than happy to, if they want to look at those comparables just to see them. I mean, I'm all just testing the temperament, right? So it's all about building that relationship. So if I feel like I'm already winning with the relationship, I'll say, hey, but
Yeah,
I will take these comps and I will put them in a cloud CMA and I'll send them over to you. So you can look through those pictures and see how your house compares even more detail after we leave. But the goal is to
right,
leave the appointment with a listing. So that's the goal there,
right,
is to leave with the listing.
right. And
And
that
so
kind of creates a
here,
hook too
this
for
is,
you, right?
pardon?
I was just saying that creates kind of a hook,
Yeah,
is when you, and so
exactly.
they'll come back if they want
Exactly.
to work with you.
Right. And it's really about building trust and adding value more than just pricing the house. I mean, they're hiring me to price the house right. I really, I just had a house, for instance, I valued it. It did not have very many comps. And I researched and I came up with a list price of 489. And I knew that we could push it up possibly maybe another $10,000, but we were contingent on another house. So I needed to get a contract and we didn't have a lot of comps. So the appraiser, an appraisal, and I remind this to my potential clients, an appraisal, you have 5 appraisers and you can have 5 different values. So what we're after is identifying not only what it'll appraise for, but what will a buyer be willing to pay? Because sometimes those numbers are different. And we've had situations where the appraised value says it's higher than what the market is bearing. So than what the market is bearing a lower price. Saratoga Springs is one of those areas where it is appraising for more. And I know for an example, because I have a listing that is appraised for a certain value, we listed it at less than that value. We still haven't gotten a contract. Now we aren't able to lower it any lower because my clients need a certain amount of money to move to the next house. So we've got a couple of things that are at play, but it's appraised for more. And the builder required us to appraise it. So we appraised it and it actually came into this exact same appraised value I gave it. And which was interesting. And then this other property, the appraiser did something which I wasn't happy with. When the appraiser got to my client's house, he told my client that, oh, wow, your house is going to appraise, your townhouse, you've done so much to it, you've done so many upgrades, it's going to appraise for more than what you're under contract for. So what did that do to my client? I think we undersold the house. And so I had to remind her 5 appraisers, 5 different values. I've shown you the comps. I've gone through the data with you. We've set the price. We've got a contract. We're moving you to the next house. We have not undersold your house. We got multiple offers and we didn't get over asking price with multiple offers. So we priced it right. Interestingly enough, 5 days later, it appraised for 1,000 more than what I had it listed and under contract for. So those appraisers, and so that appraiser shouldn't have said a thing, but that appraiser did. The seller did not hire the appraiser. And so he shouldn't have said a thing, but he did, and he caused me some grief for 5 days as my client wasn't very happy. But then she was happy when she saw what the appraisal came in. So what the appraisal came in at. So here I have a Rambler that's under contract. I'm just seeing what's under contract. 529. It is 3,000 square feet, but only has 1,500 finished. I'm not going to put that on as one of my comps. I could show it to them, but I'm not going to use this particular one when I'm not going to use this particular one when I do the CMA in the system, just because it is only 171 a square foot because we have so much unfinished. Now it does take that into consideration, but I don't feel like it's as accurate. And then this one is 0.15, so closer to the 0.17. Still on the other side. So we don't have, it goes to show that the other side of the market doesn't go up for sale very often because we don't have any too much for sale. We're going to look at that next. It's got views over there as well. It's further away from the freeway. So there are some advantages to it, even though both areas, people are going to move to Santa Quinn, they're going to choose either area. But I am going to print these for my client, for my potential client to see. So I'm going to do the same thing. Lori and I both still like our paper files, so you can call us old school, but. And then I do end up printing those. So, and I don't know why I did that, but we'll go ahead and close it. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same thing. I keep the tab open and I go back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this file, and I'm going to make sure you guys have access to it through Lori so you can see what I created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the printed versions, I'm going to write on them, scan them in so you can see what my notes are. And so I'm going to take this, and I want to see now what my competition is. So in that range, I have 3. And so I'm going to take a look at these 3 now, still on the, whoops, I didn't wait long enough. Okay, so we've got a Rambler at 525, still an unfinished basement, less finished square feet. Now we've got a 2-story. It's got a nice side yard on it, and it is currently listed. That's the 550 that's been on the market 51 days. It is 179 a square foot. And I have my number at 185. And that's even got some RV parking. So it's worth taking a look. And this one has got a finished basement. Let me go back to it. So that's what's driving that price up. So that's actually, go to it. Okay, that's the 535, 3,100 square feet, still active. Oh my heavens, I don't know why it keeps popping off like that. Okay, there's that one. We're gonna go to the second one here. So this one's got a finished basement. Let's see, it's 100% finished. So that's the 550, 550. So in my numbers, they're only getting another $15,000 for a finished basement. With that finished basement, it does bring down the price per square foot because it's a finished basement. They're raising the price, but it's been on the market 51 days. So I do like to take a look at it and say, okay, look, it's even staged great. So it's really staged really nicely, cute. It's not too bad. I mean, obviously they live in it, but it's definitely clean and it's in good shape, a newer home, and it's got that finished basement. So the backyard, the lot is bigger and it has some side yard, but it's on a hill, so it doesn't really have a lot of usable backyard. Taking a look at these pictures. So that could be some of the challenges, even though it is a decent lot for out there, it's not as usable as we like. So as we take a look at it, come back to here. So it is 0.14, so we're 0.17, okay? So I like my clients to see, same thing, I'll keep them open, but I do the same thing because I like to see, make sure that if I have to go back in 3 months, I want to see what valuation I did. I want to see what I used before and see what happened to those homes. So as we're on here now, there are going to be a little bit more active as well. So I will just search price. I'll do a new tab, and I just want to see what my competition is. So I'll choose active, but I'll clear the criteria, choose active, go to 7, and I'm strictly going to look at price range of 500 to 550 and see what I've got. Except something happened here. Hold on. 32. So I've got 32 in that range. And I just want to see if I missed anything because my criteria might have been too tight. And so that's older. I think we already had that one 7 days on the market. Definitely, there we go. So it's 2,500, 0.11, 504, 199, looking at that price per square foot. Price per square foot. Just kind of taking a look. There's the Rambler. It is pulling the new construction, so I know what I'm up against on new construction. There's the same builder as my clients. Salisbury 2697, 0.15 of the lot, and they've got it at 504. So I already know I'm competing against the builder. But that is a to be built. They don't have their landscaping in, they don't have a fence in. So my clients have a full fence and it's fully landscaped. But I am seeing what they're building, but look at that price per square foot, 187. So we know we're in that price range. Then 514, closer to my client's square footage. Up in the same area, same builder, 0.15 of a lot. They've got it at 514, and this has been on the market for 134 days. So that is actually concerning. It definitely needs to be staged for sure. So, and this very well could be my client's floor plan. It looks very similar to my client's floor plan. So it tells me, oh, he's got it listed as to be built. Let's see if it is actually. Okay, this is just a sample. So this home, the reason why it's been on the market so long, that's why I cut those out before, is because this one, they're advertising it, but it hasn't gone under contract, and these are all to be built. Under construction, now we have one, let's see, 500, 2,800 square feet, 173, but it's a rambler, but still 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, and a 0.22 of an acre. So that is going to be competition to my client's property, even if they may not be interested in a rambler. And then we see that one before, we've seen that one before, new construction. Okay, here we go. Here's a 530, but it's 3,200 square feet and fully finished, and it hasn't sold. Okay, so it's in the older part of town, and it's going to be surrounded by older homes, typically. So this one would likely, and how I kind of look as I look at the street view. Okay, it's got a few newer. Okay, it does need a new driveway. Okay, yeah, so it's just definitely an older neighborhood. And so that's, and let's find out what the year built on that one is. 2005. So an older neighborhood, older house. So I'm not going to use that one as a comparable. And then we've got 524, 3,200 square feet under finished, and it is to be built as well. So it hasn't been built. And then this one is this a to be built? Let's find out. No, this is built standing. This was 2024, 3,200 square feet for 539. And this is in the same area. So this is what we're competing against. So I'm definitely going to want them to see that property. And then we've got a 524. They've taken a major price drop. They're at 130.63 a square foot. They're 3,200 square feet. They're on. I mean, doesn't seem like a bad house to buy, but guess what? It's going to be all hill in the backyard. I know I'm kind of carrying through this, but I just want to show you exactly what I'm going through so that when you, yeah, see that hill in the back? So even though they're saying it's 1/3 of an acre, it is. Now I'm not going to see as much on street view because it's just built, but I'm going to see that hill. Okay, so it has no backyard. It's got this hill as the backyard. So that helps me to know, okay, that's really not a house that mine competes with because mine has a really great backyard. Has a really nice big open backyard and views. Okay, and to be built. And then we've got a 546. That's built standing as well. 0.14 of a lot, but it does have a 3-car garage. So it is commanding that 3rd car, and it is a bigger house, and it does have 4 bedrooms. So I've got to pay attention to that price. It's a rambler. Here we go, 529. Let's see where that is. That's on the other side on Saddlebrook, but it's a nice neighborhood, DR Horton. So I'm just grabbing a few more actives for me to make sure that I'm showing my client what we're up against when we need to price this house. Again, this is up in the same neighborhood. It's got a 3rd car garage, it's bigger square footage, and it's at 529. And it hasn't gone under, let's see how many days. Oh, it's to be built. Sorry, I did that on accident. I should have cut out the to be builts. To be built, that's why. So that's their base price. They haven't actually added on their additional costs. So the 3rd car garage is going to have a cost, and if they are going to allow them to have any more finishes to it. Okay. So I ended up with 4 additional active comps. So it's just for me and my own documentation. I just end up doing the same thing. I just end up making sure that I've now weeded through. Now you can save them in your favorites. You can do different things that you want to do there. So if I was going to be going right to their house and showing this to them, but I know they're out a little ways, so they're just looking for a number right now. I would active 2 comps, just my additional one. I would end up saving them under my favorites so that I can quickly get to them and show them the properties. But I'm going to go back to, that's my other one. I'm going to go back to my actives. I mean, my solds right here. And this is where I am going to do a CMA. So I'm going to do a CMA report, and I'm just going to see what the algorithm is going to tell me. So I'm going to populate it here. I'm going to populate the subject property, and I have to use the tax ID number 41 998 0090. Not letting me do it. It wants the hyphen in there. Maybe. There we go. I was being slow. Okay. So it's got it doesn't have the square footage right on here. So you could, oh, there we go. Still doesn't have the square footage because I'm pulling from tax record. I don't know why it's jumping like that. So I'm going to go here, and I know that I don't know what the breakdown is. I'm going to have to go back and look, but there's going to be more square footage on the main floor than upstairs. So I mean, upstairs than on the main floor because it goes over the garage. So I will have to go adjust this a little bit, but it is above ground square footage. I'll have to go look it up on some older records that I've got. So I'll probably do like, I'll probably do 1100 up here. And then let me just go ahead and do a little math right here. Taking 1986 and I'm minusing 1100. So I'm going to get 886 for the main floor. Actually, I already know what it is. It is, the basement is 906, so the first level is going to be 906. So we're going to take 1986 minus 906. So it's 1080 upstairs. And there we have it. So we've got a 2-car garage. And I'm trying to figure out why, what am I missing here on my tax record? Square footage, square footage, square footage. Okay. Oh, lot size. Here we go. There we go. So it's coming out at 515. Sometimes I agree with this, sometimes I don't. But I go ahead and I print this and I tell my client, this based on these sold comps or sold and under contract comps, I say, this is what, and sometimes I have to make a phone call. Sometimes an agent will tell me what they're under contract for when I just let them know I'm valuing another property. Sometimes they'll tell me, sometimes they won't. Or at least they'll tell me whether they got list or whether they took a reduction of some sort. So I'm going to go ahead and now print this. And I save this and I print this out as well. And I'm just printing this because I'm going to make you guys a packet. So that's the CMA. Okay. So now it's time to just use expertise. So if you were to bring me this whole packet that you printed and you said, I am having trouble pricing this house, and you came through and you showed me your sales per month reports, you showed me your market summary report, you had the old listing and the tax ID form, or one, if there's only one, and you brought me this CMA, I could help you price that house. And that would be, you know, the best use of my time because you've already taken yourself through the process. So now I have to decide on the price. If she wants to, so I valued it at 535. We have some competition to look at that's at 535. Isn't that crazy that my computer is doing that? It's just jumping all over the place. I don't know why it's doing that. See, I've lost my comps. So I've lost my comps there. So we've got now a 515 on the CMA, but remember, it can't see the insides of the house. So I know how I'm making assumptions on the house. So I would actually create a value in a range at this point. Then I go to the listing, then I walk through the house and I say, does it look better than the competition or does it work worse than the competition? So for me, I know that I'd be listing this house. I know that I would be having it clean top to bottom, that I would be having them get rid of any extras, and then I would have it make sure that it's staged and looks like a model home. So I do know that I would then command the highest price possible. But I do feel that I do know we're competing against builders, and I do know that we're competing against builders, and we do know that we have some bigger homes that are in the similar price range, highest being only 550, and it had a finished basement. So for me, I would be pricing this home between the 515 and 525. And in an ideal world, since we're against builders and I would want my client to not have to have a price reduction, I would close it. I would price it at, if we're assuming it's an unfinished basement, but they do have a fence and they do have a yard, I would come in and price this thing between 519 or 520 to 525. And that's just based on, that's where you can rely on other agents. That's where you can rely on your productivity coaches to help you fine tune that actual price. And then in addition to the CMA, you're then having those listing presentation conversations of where do you think you should price your home? So I actually don't give a number right off the bat. I said, based on this data, where would you price your home? And I let them give me a number. And that helps me to say, because if they're going to be a little bit more conservative on the number and they want to say, you know what, I want to get it sold, I'm going to come in at 515. We're going to list at 515 because that's not that big of a range. And if we were to get multiple offers, it could drive that price up a little bit. But the maximum I'm seeing in this price range that a property would go up is $10,000. So that puts us back up to 525. And with all that new construction competition and knowing we're up against the type of interest rates and incentives they can offer, buyers don't really realize that they have to put in, I mean, they just don't think about the costs of fences and the costs of landscaping. They're really concerned about that payment. So if the builder's offering a really great incentive, they're going to definitely draw the buyer away, especially if they've got some standing inventory or something that's going to be finished soon. Now in this range, you can also bump it up a little bit more and do 530, but then offer a $10,000 2-1 buy down or toward closing costs as an incentive. So but before you start to talk about those numbers, you're just talking about your price. And we're also taking into account thresholds. We know we're going to be above 500,000. So that's usually a different buyer than the below 500,000. And we know we have thresholds that are like 525 and 550. So in order to attract the most number of buyers, I'd like to come under that 525 threshold in this particular property. Does anybody have any questions for me? And that's the end of it. So I have that packet for my notes. I keep my tabs open. I'm ready to show them the listings, a cloud CMA of the solds or under contracts, depending on what it is. And that's what I take to price a property. But if you were to go through these steps, and I'll have this packet for you, if you were to go through these steps and bring me a packet like this and say I'm having a hard time valuing the property, would be just so helpful to say, okay, I'm going to follow the path that you're going through. And probably the path that you're going through, and I can say, yeah, I really think it should be in this range. And then you allow, for me, I ask my sellers. Sometimes my sellers say, I don't want to decide, you decide. And I need to be prepared to say, well, we have two choices. We can buy the market by dropping just a little bit under what we think. Now, I think it'll appraise at 535. I'm not worried about the appraisals. The comps were a little higher. So I'm not worried about the appraisals. 535, it could have possibly even get a 540 as far as appraisal. But as far as what somebody's going to pay with the current market conditions, I'd like to buy the market by putting it just under what I think it's going to sell for and attract as many offers as possible, which might only be one or two, but we only need one and they don't have to accept every offer. And so, I mean, I have a buyer I represented, and even though we were the only offer, we still ended up having to pay list price because we were competing against the seller because he didn't want to sell. But I did this exact analysis for my buyer. And I said, you know, I'd prefer to pay 545 would be my ideal number for the house. but we're willing to give them 560 because this is how much it affects your payment. And this gets you where you want to be. And they were putting a fair amount of money down, so it wasn't affecting their payment quite as much. So if you really love the
Can
house,
I ask a
560
question?
is not out of range. Sorry. Go ahead.
I had one more question.
Great.
Um, what do you guys do if you have like a property in an easement? How do you generally adjust for that? So
You mean an
what I mean by
easement?
easement is like it's like a flag lot situation where
Oh.
there's a property in the front off a street, and then you have like
Mm-hmm.
two properties behind it, but you have to go through each property to get to each sequential property.
I'm going to be searching in surrounding cities. So say I've got that in West Jordan. I'm going to look for them in Riverton. I'm going to look for them in South Jordan. I'm going to look for other flag lots for comparables. And I'm
Okay.
going to see what price difference in their area. So I'm going to look for ones in my area, flag lots, and then I'm going to look for the same house that isn't in a flag lot. And I learned this from Kenya Arnett's husband, who's an appraiser. And then you start to see the price difference between a flag lot versus a not flag lot.
Okay. And
And
then
you
you
start
just
to see
kind
what
of
you need to
apply
discount the
that.
price at. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You just apply that difference or that
Yeah,
percentage
just apply that
difference.
difference. Yeah, find a comparable city and apply the difference. Comparable years. And so you do have to work a little harder at it because you've got to go out further and find those properties that are flag
Okay.
lots. And then I say, oh, okay, they've got this much of a difference roughly. I'm going to now go comp this house out if it was right in the nice, right in the neighborhood. And I'm going to say, and then I'm going to pull that number down. Lori, I don't know if Lori's still on. I know she does this all the time, so she might just be on.
I'm here.
I'm just curious to see what you do on that.
I would go about the same route that you would. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're just
Patria and
That's
I
a
looking
are
great
for.
very much
answer.
alike when we price.
Yeah, she has one more step that I sometimes do, but I didn't think I could fit it in the hour. And if you mastered this, then I'd be happy to show you this report that she does sell. She does actives under contracts and solds, and she does like a minimal report, and she's just marking them red, yellow, and green. Green if they're priced better than if they're better than your house. Yellow if what is your skit coloring again, Lori?
Yeah, green, red, and yellow. So green is if we're better, red is if they're better, yellow is if they're just like us.
Gotcha. That was it. So I sometimes use that method when I need to, or I end up with a lot of properties. So like
Yeah.
this one could have worked out with that because it's very easy in that range to end up with, I think I had 33 solds. So it was very easy to do that. So this is what I do. And then I keep these packets for my properties so that I can go back and take a look. And I also keep it saved in a folder that I have on my Google Drive that shows, it doesn't have all my notes on it, but shows all the documents that I did. And, but I do keep a file folder of the comps that I did and how I wrote it out and so forth. Does anybody else have any other questions? So for me, I'm going to pull this up. So here they are. So if I sent you a packet, you should be able to be like, okay, this is the tax data. I got to figure out how to get the tax data. And remember up there, you can also get the MLS if there is one and print those. Then you get to this next one and you can see on the criteria, oh, that's what she did. Okay, I can copy that. And that's exactly what it is. And I have to tell you, I did this, but not in a systematic way. Lori actually taught me the systematic way. So I'm not acting like I invented it because I didn't. So, and then here's the one that's a little bit more fine tuned. Then I switched it over and I'd have it labeled as this is now the number 4 paper, which is the monthly summary report, but I wish we could just dial into and see those listings, but we can't. And then I jump over and I do the solds, then the under contracts and backups, then the actives. And then I create that CMA report and I see how that is different from my number that I came up with on my average price per square foot. You guys can do it, right? No, you can.
They can for sure. For sure.
Hey, that's it.
Does anyone else have questions for Patrea before we let her off the call?
Well, I'll make
I
sure
like
you
to
get
give
this
them.
packet.
Okay. I like to give them just a minute because sometimes they're like putting kids to
Oh,
bed or at work. So
Oh, got it.
nobody.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, thanks, Ria. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. Rhiannon?
Oh, Rhiannon. Yeah.
Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Rhiannon, excuse me. Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah, and Patrea, I get a variation as well.